right, so I'm going to go ahead and call this town council meeting to order, 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. With that, roll call, Ms. Milton.
Yep. Mr. Orris.
Here.
Mr. Slocum.
Here.
Mr. Burway.
Present.
Mr. Jenks.
Here.
Ms. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Wano.
Here.
Mr. Talbot.
Here.
Mr. Belliver.
Here.
Mr. Walsh. We have a
Here.
quorum present.
Thank you, Ms. Milton. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the items for executive session, which are labor negotiations, pending litigation, personnel matters, will move on to public communications, starting with item A, which is COVID-19 update from our Chesapeake Health Director, Maura Esposito. I see Maura is here. Maura, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you have a lot to share with us. And once again, on behalf of all of us, thank you for all you're doing and your staff is doing for our community and certainly the Tri-Town area. So thank you for all of that. With that, Maura, over to you.
So thank you. So my video is not working tonight. So just one of many things going wrong today, but that's okay. So but you all can hear me, correct? Yes. So I do have a long report and I will try to keep it as fast as I can. Currently right now our positive cases are up to 1,823. This past week we've had, and that's since Saturday, we've had 70 cases and we've had over a dozen teachers and students testing positive. So although right now we've been really slow and steady, I do anticipate that that will be reflected in probably the next upcoming week's numbers. What do I think about this? Well, we know that in Connecticut, we have some variants and these are plaguing some of our cases. The state of Connecticut has several variants that are invading, especially Cheshire has had the B17, but there's B135, P1, B1427, you name it. There's a lot of variables that are variants that are mutating from this virus. So we will be keeping a close watch on that. Our contact tracing is really gearing up, especially because of these teachers and students. We are finding that we are working again really closely with the schools because unfortunately we are doing large amounts of quarantining due to sports exposures. We're finding baptismal exposures, weddings, because we're all out and about. We're getting together with friends and that is happening. So I just want to remind everyone that I know that many of us, especially many of you on the screen, have gotten your vaccines, but vaccines are not 100% effective. Actually, what they're talking about with these, what they call the breakthrough cases, these are people that have gotten their vaccines and then test positive about 2 weeks afterwards, they've been exposed, that really only they're 80% effective in preventing the disease. And so that is why we are still encouraging the masking and the social distancing, okay? They're about 94% effective against preventing severe disease and death, but only 80% in preventing the just infection. So again, just want to encourage everyone that I really know we all don't like wearing masks, but they are the best thing and social distancing is very important. I'm sure everyone heard the news today with the J&J. The J&J is on pause. That's been the news all morning. But just in perspective, that J&J has given 6.8 million doses in the United States, and they have found 6 cases of a rare blood clot. Just so you know, every one of those 6 cases were women aged 18 to 48. they had symptoms that had occurred between 6 and 13 days after their vaccination. These are extremely rare, but if anybody that has gotten a J&J that has a very severe headache, abdominal pain, leg pain, or shortness of breath within 3 weeks after they got their J&J vaccine, they should contact their healthcare provider. The healthcare providers, as I've seen, are going to be reporting these as a in the VAERS system, which is the vaccine adverse event reporting system. So anytime there is a reaction that we know of as health providers, we have to record them so CDC can see this. So again, if this happens, please contact your doctor. But of course, not having J&J is affecting my department. We were scheduled for a J&J clinic in Prospect. We like to give the J&J at our senior centers. We also rely on the J&Js for our homebound, just because it's one and a done. So now our homebound are on a little pause until we get further guidance, which I would imagine DPH will be providing us. As of right now, the governor has stated that 49% of the adults in Connecticut have received their first dose, and 28% of our population has received their full vaccination. We are doing much better than most places in the United States. But just to give you Cheshire's numbers, Cheshire's right now is being reported that about 53.3% of our residents have received their first dose. So that's a great number. I would like to see that up higher, but I will take whatever I can get. Currently, Chesbrigott has given over 7,951 vaccinations. We've provided over 5,263 first dose. We're right now only at about 34% in our second dose, but we have several clinics that are coming up. So I think that once we're done, we're probably going to be around the 10,000 mark. Just for all of you to know that we are currently, our current schedule, which is all second dose Modernas, will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. We'll be still at the pool from 9 to 3:30. We'll be doing our second dose for our daycares, our second half of the Cheshire Public Schools, and the Wolcott Public Schools. The following week, we will be on the 22nd. We will be at the pool from 9 to 3 doing daycare second. And then we're going to be closing up our pool operation. And very graciously, the Cheshire High School, we believe we will be doing operations. We will be holding 2 more clinics, the 5th and the 19th, at Cheshire High School. They're both on Wednesdays, so hopefully to alleviate, because all those kids go remote, they will be getting second doses. So what happens is that you can be the best planner in the world, but you always have first doses with your second dose clinics because you get leftovers and you get more pulls, and you're always like, you're chasing your tail. So hopefully we'll get everyone, but I know we won't get everybody. So we will keep working on that. I just want to remind anybody who's listening to this that just because the J&J is on pause for our homebound, anybody in the community that has a medically homebound neighbor, friend, family in Connecticut can always access the intake form on the computer in the state portal, or they can always call their local senior center. I work very closely with Stephanie over there to be making these arrangements, and we were really hoping we were hoping for J&J this week so we could do our seniors this Friday, but we'll just be pushing that out. Now, I know that not everybody is very savvy with the computers. So Hartford Healthcare is operating, again, we've heard this many times, the large capacity event at Oakdale, and their phone number for if you can't do the computer is 860-827-7690. We have a lot more pharmacies coming up in the line. And if you go on to Vaccine Finder, you can actually filter out which vaccine you're looking at. Now, when I just went on it today, before I got on, I have the 2 Rite Aids in Cheshire, Stop and Shop is Cheshire, CVS in Prospect as a provider, and Walgreens in Wallingford as providers. Can't say there's an absolute vaccine there, but there's also one more number I want to give out. It's the Vaccine Appointment Assistant line, 877-918-2224. There are many people on that line that are willing to help anybody find a vaccine and book that appointment. I loved your questions, Arnett. Thank you for sending over those questions for me. And some of them I got a little giggle. So what I'm going to tell you is the secret of finding, Jim, these appointments. Every Monday, we start planning and we have to order our vaccines for Tuesday. So our orders absolutely have to be in for Tuesday. By Friday, we usually get told what our vaccine allotments are. So I can tell you that on Monday, we are busy scheduling and opening up those appointments if we have them. I myself had to make an appointment for my daughter. So I will tell you, I played the game just like everybody else looking for an appointment. And it is about going on frequently, trying to find appointments. It's not simple, but they do pop up periodically. Your best bet, you not only the phone numbers that I've given you, but there are going to be a lot more people and a lot more mobile coming in and around. So you're seeing the FEMA mobile vehicles. Most of those are right now being pushed to what's called the communities that are rating very high on what's called the social vulnerability index by the CDC. Cheshire does not even, unfortunately, come up on as a vulnerable population. Doesn't mean that they're not there, but we will always still, if anybody has someone that is, need of a vaccine that can't access, we do help try to guide them through these different avenues, but they can always help themselves. It's a very challenging situation. And then I know that Mr. Slocum had asked me about herd immunity last time I was on this call. So I just wanted to update him. I don't know if he's on. Oh, there you are, Tim. I will say the thought process was that we were trying to get to herd immunity, and that herd immunity basically was about getting to 60-70% of vaccine. But this probably is not going to be reached, not anytime soon, only because we have a very high rate of vaccine hesitancy, and we have so many new variants appearing, as I've talked about earlier. And also the fact that getting children vaccinated is going to be a delay. I noticed that someone had asked about the children's vaccine. And I would say that the vaccine testing for young children is just in the starting phases. And usually there is under normal circumstances, it takes about 5 years of trials before the children vaccines get approved. But of course, we are under emergency authorization. So I do not know what they will allow and not allow. So I think that was Don's question. I don't know where it was. The other thing is about vaccinating our young school kids. I would love to be able to vaccinate our kids 16, 17 with the Pfizer. We do have, they have loosened, the requirements of storage of the vaccine as long as it's in the refrigerator and used by a certain amount of time, which doesn't seem to be an issue. but they're the higher aboves, the governor only wants right now or has granted approval for certain school districts that meet a certain equity level. And unfortunately, Cheshire's public school does not fit that criteria. Neither do any of my schools. So it is a weight game. We will see, because I will tell you, as having a 17-year-old who searched down her vaccine, April 1st, many of them are already going out there and getting their vaccines. We got into one of them into Waterbury pretty easy, and she had no experience. But I have promised the schools, Cheshire Academy, that if the opportunity is there, I will of course adhere to protecting our citizens and providing them the vaccines that they need. I'm not getting out of the vaccine process, just so you know that. The state of Connecticut has offered, I've been working for the last couple of days on a grant that is addressing vulnerable populations, which do include our homebound and do include a portion of residents that live in Wolcott. So I will still be doing some pop-up clinics and some senior center clinics. So I don't foresee us getting out of this business. So I'm sure that if there is a need, I will direct those people to whatever means I need to do. Is there any questions?
Laura, thank you for that update. I know you're really busy with you and your staff, and sometimes taking this time at night is not always easy, but I think it's really important that our community hear directly from you as the individual who's directing us from a health perspective and on the front line. So thank you for taking the time. I also know that we hit you with a lot of questions. You answered a lot of them. So thank you to the council for getting those to more ahead of time, but I'd like to open it up at this point to any questions or comments for Ms. Esposito. Oh, Mr. Veliver.
Yep. Maura, thank you. And thank you for all you're doing, the continued process that you're going through and all that you and your staff are doing. Appreciate that. My question is, and this, I think you touched on it a little bit, but are you seeing a large percentage of the people who have already been vaccinated? Are these new cases, the new cases, are they not vaccinated people, or are they mixed of people who've already received vaccinations and are now getting it? How is that breakdown of those, the surge or the spike that you're sort of seeing? The cases?
Okay, so of these like 70 new cases this past week, no, they're not vaccinated.
Okay.
I will say that Cheshire has been really great amongst the three communities. You guys are really rated very low, which is where you want to be, but it is slowly going up. And we are, we know that our goal is to get people vaccinated. And we're trying to do the best that we can with what we've got, but we need time. So that's why I really want to encourage, even though you do get a vaccine, and again, and your second one and your 2 weeks, you are not 100% covered. And that is why we are still asking to wear masks and to do your social distancing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Veliver. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Mr. Slocum?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And I guess this gets me to the important question of when will we ever be able to take off masks? I mean, it sounds like there will never be a herd immunity, and there will never be a taking off of masks. And obviously, that's not a credible response to something. But what do you think? I guess it's maybe an open question you can't answer.
It is an open question. There's many different thought processes on that. It used to be the drive to get to herd immunity, and now it's like the drive to get to normalcy. And with, as we've said, not having children getting vaccinated and having all these new variants popping up, we're probably going to be coming. This is why we're probably looking like this is going to be a booster, just like the flu, that, will it ever leave? That's the thought process right now. And, I don't know. My crystal ball has been really foggy since the beginning of the pandemic. So it's a wait and see.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Slocum. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Esposito, I just have one to kind of follow up. It was a question that I did send. You talked a little bit about it, the various variants that are out there. How concerning are these variants? And the one that I've read about that seems to be maybe the most concerning is the B135, I guess, South Africa variant version of this. Can you give us any more information, or is that just not something you have yet?
Well, I can tell you that Cheshire has not had any of those, that variant, and there's only 8 of them in the state of Connecticut. But just like any virus, if it gets to another host and it can survive, it will survive and spread. So that is why it is a variant that, according to the Department of Public Health, that we do have as part of our variants of concerns. So we are watching them very closely, and whenever the state reports one to us, our job is to immediately identify that person and follow up on any close contacts or quarantine contacts that they had. So I do think there is some concern, but I just don't know to the extent of the concern at this point, because we have been we are seeing, like, 3 weeks ago that B117 came in and it was really low. Well, now guess what? We're at almost 650 cases. That is because a lot of us are not vaccinated, and we are giving the virus a host to continue to reproduce. So we have control of trying to prevent it. But we need the vaccination, and we need to follow the public health initiatives to try to stop its spread.
Thank you, Maura. Appreciate your time tonight. And one last time, any other questions or comments for Ms. Esposito before we let her go? I know she's very busy. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Maura, very much for your time.
Thank you, everyone, and have a nice week.
Thank you. You as well. Okay, we're going to move on to introduction 4B, introduction of our town attorney, Jeff D'Onofrio. And before I do that, by the way of background for the public, as you probably all know, the town council voted and approved the hiring of attorney D'Onofrio of the law firm Chula and D'Onofrio as our town attorney effective March 1st, 2021. Also, as you probably know, the town council advanced an RFP for town attorney services many months ago, but was unfortunately delayed due to the COVID pandemic. We did receive many excellent responses and options. The process was a very thorough process once we got back at it, once we were able to start kind of weeding through this process, once the pandemic was more under control. That process was led by our planning committee of the town council. Its chairman, Tim Slocum, Mr. Bowery, Mr. Jinks, I believe, were the 3 on that committee. So I want to thank them for their hard work as well. I can tell you that Mr. D'Onofrio is a very impressive individual and has an impressive resume. And I want to take a few minutes to just read some of this, because I think it's really important the public understand the quality of the individual that we've chosen to represent us through a myriad of legal services. So I'm going to take a minute to go through it, if you would indulge me. Attorney D'Onofrio has been a commercial litigation attorney in Connecticut since 1990. He began his career at Tyler Cooper and Alcorn in New Haven, where he practiced commercial litigation, construction law, and municipal law until leaving to form the firm of Chula and D'Onofrio, LLP, on November 1st, 1996, I believe, with his partner at the time, Robert Chula. Attorney D'Onofrio was admitted to the bars of Connecticut, the U.S. District Court for the District of Connecticut, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. He's a graduate of Boston College and the Catholic University of America Columbus School of Law. He represents businesses and public agencies of all sizes, including municipalities, construction contractors, financial institutions, telecommunications companies, insurance companies, service companies, and other types of businesses in a wide variety of civil litigation. including complex litigation, construction law, municipal law, contract law, and business torts. Attorney D'Onofrio is also attorney for towns of Berlin and North Haven, and also provides a la carte legal services to several other municipalities in Connecticut. Also, since 2008, he has served as the Consumer Affairs Officer for the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority. Very impressive resume. Again, it was a very difficult process because we had wonderful submittals from great firms, but in the end, it was very clear to the majority of this council that Attorney D'Onofrio was the right fit for the town of Cheshire. He is here tonight. I want to congratulate him and welcome him to tonight's meeting. It's really the first meeting that we've had an opportunity to have him here with us. They're an excellent fit, as I said, for Cheshire, in my opinion. I'm very confident that they are going to provide top-notch services for our community at a very cost-effective rate. So I want to welcome Attorney D'Onofrio and certainly turn it over to you, sir, if you'd like to make a brief comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a difficult introduction to live up to, but you know, one of the reasons that my firm and I were so excited about the opportunity to work with Cheshire is because, as you indicated, we've been here since November 1st of 1996. So for almost 25 years here from our office in North Haven, we've admired Cheshire as an exemplary community. And what I've learned over the last month and a half since I started working, especially with Sean and Arnett on a regular basis, is that that reputation is well deserved. The level of professionalism in the town manager's office and staff throughout the town is absolutely top notch. And my excitement over the opportunity to work with the town has only grown since we've begun working together over the last 45 days or so. So I really appreciate the opportunity and we look forward to working with the town.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I'll open it up for any comments from members of the council. Yes, Ms. Pavano.
Yes, welcome, Attorney D'Onofrio. We're very glad to have you in Cheshire. We all look forward to working with you, having a long, many years of service to us. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pavano. Any other comments from members of the council? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Attorney D'Onofrio. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to our quarterly item 4C, quarterly consent calendar donation acknowledgements. We all have a summary of all of the consent calendar donations for the Q3 fiscal year 2021, January 21 to March 21. As always, a very long list of very generous people who give in this community, particularly at a very difficult time. One of the things that I know always surprises all of us is how generous people are in the face of a lot of adversity. And the pandemic's been difficult on all of us, but yet the Cheshire community just keeps giving. And they give most to those in need. So that's one of the very special things that we love about Cheshire. And this report just underscores that. So are there any questions from members of the council on that? Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Slocum?
Well, I guess I would just like to point out, because they were kind enough in staff's office to sort of total things out, but certainly the human services gift account was really well rewarded for all their efforts and recognition of all their needs in the wonderful sum of $15,000. I mean, they clearly received the lion's share of these total donations of about 70,000. But to me, it's just incredible. And you know, I just thought that was especially important during this COVID stuff to bring that one forward. That's a huge total, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Slocum. Agreed. Any other comments from members of the council? Okay, we're going to move on to item 5, approval of the minutes. The regular meeting, March 9th, 2021, special meetings of March 16th, 23, 25, 30, April 1st, 6th, and 8th, 2021. Public hearing, March 23rd, 2021. Also including corrections that are in your packets for the meetings of March 9th, 2021, January 12th, 21, December 8th, 2020, November 10th, 2020, and October 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Veliver. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Pavano. Any questions or comments on approval of the minutes? Seeing none, with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 6, consent calendar. Mr. Bowery.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 041321-1. Be it resolved that the town council approves the consent calendar for April 13, 2021 as follows. And I will not read the 16 very generous gifts in detail, nor the preservation grant.
Thank you, Mr. Bowery.
I'll second that. Does it need a second?
Thank you. Yes, I do, Ms. Nichols. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none, with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to new business number 9, 9A, call for public hearing of the proposed 21-22 annual capital expenditure budget. And I will read this. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution number 041321-2. Be it resolved, the town council shall hold a public hearing at 6:30 PM on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 to consider the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 5-year capital expenditure plan and capital expenditure budget. And be it further resolved that the town manager shall cause a notice of said public hearing to be posted and published according to law.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. And with that, I'll turn it over to our budget chair, Mr. Bowery, for any comment, if he has any.
That's the first opportunity we will have to begin the capital budget process, really. We sort of began it with the operating budget, and 1 year they will sync up without these extraordinary COVID and other issues coming up. But this is the beginning of a process that we hope to culminate at the end of August in time to have ballot questions prepared if there are any as part of our deliberations. But hearing from the public is always a great way to start.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bowery. Any questions or comments on this?
Is that the night? Is that before the same night as our meeting, the 6:30 before the May council meeting? Okay, thank you.
I believe so, but I didn't really look at the calendar. Arnett, can you confirm that, or
Yeah,
Sean?
that's the second Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to 9B, discussion and possible action regarding the extension of budget deadlines pursuant to Governor's Executive Order 10E. Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 041321-3. Be it resolved that the town council, pursuant to the governor's executive order 10E, extends the charter deadline for the adoption of fiscal year 2021-2022 general operation budget from April 30, 2021 to May 28, 2021.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bowery. I'm sorry, was that you, Mr. Slocum?
It was, Mr. Ross,
Okay,
yes.
thank you, Mr. Slocum. Appreciate that. Mr. Bowery, back to you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The Budget Committee met earlier this evening and had a discussion about this, and we briefly brought it up during our budget workshops because this happened during one of our workshops, the publication of this. It gives us more time in order to get the revenues, a clearer picture of our revenues, and quite frankly, expenditures. We'll have another month's information about the expenditures year to date and projections for next year. I think it's important that we take advantage of this time and try to take advantage of every potential revenue that may come our way when we get a clearer picture of the state and the federal government with regard to the COVID funding that was part of the stimulus budget and plan that the president signed on March 11th. I think it's going to be important that we also get the deadline to be not too far ahead that we can't get our bills out in time for tax collecting. And I think this puts it at the same day as last year. My expectation, Budget Committee's expectation, is that we'll adopt on a regular special night of May 25th. But I didn't want to cut it at that date because in case, somebody's out sick or a few people are out sick or something happens, I didn't want to have us, but my expectation is that we'll have a special council meeting on the normal night. We have a special council meeting, the fourth Tuesday, May 25th. This would give the Board of Ed time, if they did have to make some changes and notify staff. Some notifications have to be out by June 1st. So it would give them time to do those notifications if need be. But at the same time, it allows us the time we need to get a clearer picture of our revenues and really sharpen our pencils and get the projected mill rate down as low as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. This is certainly something I support. Any questions or comments on this matter from members of the council? Seeing no, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to 9C, acceptance and appropriation of $195,000 donation from Elam Park Baptist Home, Inc. to Cheshire Police Department. Mr. Veliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Cheshire Town Council approves Resolution 041321-4. Be it resolved, the Town Council accepts a $195,000 donation from Elam Park Baptist Home, Inc. to the Cheshire Police Department and appropriates said donation to the Police Department gift account as presented and attached.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Veliver. Thank you, Mr. Jenks. Back to you, Mr. Veliver.
Thank you very much. This has been an annual thing, but a very, very, very generous contribution from the Elam Park Baptist Home to the town, and one that we really appreciate and one that's very well received by the town for this. And for more detail, I think I'd like to turn this over to Deputy Chief Fortner. Did you want to talk about any of the detail at all?
Has anybody received the town manager's memo from Chief Drive? He pretty much outlines all the expenditures. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding those specific expenditures.
Any questions or comments for Chief Joyner?
Well, I would just add a comment if I may, Mr. Chairman, Tim Slocum. Only that in budget, we did discuss this, and one item that just stood out a little bit was that they were going to expend a certain portion of this funding for some carpet replacement of the detective area. And I thought it was important to just sort of highlight that because it's addressing some of the issues that are already currently under construction corrections in the lower level of moisture and damage and stuff like that we're trying to correct. And I thought that was a good use of the money and a timely use of the money since we're underway making those improvements downstairs in that area associated with dampness and ventilation. So other than that, everything else to my eye seemed fairly typical of what we would do with that money and authorize.
Okay. But it's my understanding we'll be authorizing that at some point down the road.
I think this resolution actually does all of that.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, it includes all of that in our authorization to accept. We in fact do more or less endorse. Doesn't mean they couldn't make some changes and some requests, but they sort of outlined their choices for the use of the money.
I must have been mistaken. I assumed we would be approving that. Not that I have any issues with them, but I assume this was really just an acceptance of the dollars and not necessarily a ratification of exactly where those monies are going. But I guess that's my misunderstanding. Okay.
Well, I'm not certain, Mr. Chairman, that the council could perhaps consider redirecting some of it. But I know that typically with this, that includes all of that in the back of included in the motion to accept. It appropriates as well.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Town Manager.
Well, that's correct. Traditionally, when we accept, we also appropriate consistent with the memo attached.
Okay. Thank you. So with that, are there any other questions? Questions or comments on this matter? No? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. We're now going to move on to 9D, acceptance and appropriation of $195,000 donation from Elam Park Baptist Home to Cheshire Fire Department. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves resolution number 041321-5. Be it resolved that the Town Council accepts a $195,000 donation from Elam Park Baptist Home Incorporated to the Cheshire Fire Department and appropriates said donation to the Fire Department gift account as presented and attached.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I'm not sure who seconded that. I heard a bunch of people. Miss Nichols. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Walsh.
Yeah, this is again another generous donation from Elam Park. I'll turn it over to Chief Kasner, who has a list of ways that they can use this fund, and I guess it's one of the they rely on this every year for their gift account. So I'll turn it over to Chief Kasner at this point.
Sure. Just so everybody knows, the allocations that you have in front of you are coincide with the operating budget, and it's pretty consistent over the past 5 years. This is the way we've done it. So they kind of match up with line items in the operating budget. And I think what Councilman Walsh said was correct. It does get us through the year. Without it, we certainly would see an increase in our operating budget, and it allows us to do some things like replace 30-year-old carpet and do things like that that we wouldn't usually be able to do. So I'm happy to answer questions, but it's pretty much the same as usual, and we're extremely grateful of Elam Park after the year that they had to still be able to do this for us. So we're happy that they continue, but we appreciate it just as much.
Thank you, Chief Kasner. Questions or comments from members of the council? Mr. Barwi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would note that this is in lieu of taxes, and this is very generous of them to do. It's not mandatory, it's not obligatory on their part, but it is in lieu of what they might be paying in taxes for the fact that they do use some of our services, and it's exceedingly generous. They've even donated in years where they've lost money. So I would say that we're very lucky to have them to do this. I would say also that the expenditures are keeping in the spirit of their request that they not be to displace items that should be paid for in the operating budget, but rather an enhancement to those items. And as Chief Kasner just said, these are enhancements to the budget that otherwise may not have been done or be able to be done. So I think we're very fortunate to have them. And I think this is in keeping with what the spirit of what the request is and how we spend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would just echo your comments, Mr. Barwi. Very, very generous donations, particularly at a time when we're all struggling during this pandemic. While they do use numerous services from the community, they are not obligated to make any of these payments to this community. They're very generous to do so. I know our Cheshire PD and Cheshire Fire Department look forward to these donations every year, help them provide the things that are really necessary to continue to serve our community at a high level. So thank you so much to Elam Park for these generous donations. And with that, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to 9E, discussion and possible approval of the Public Safety Network Administrator job description. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution 041321-6. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves the job description for the Public Safety Network Administrator job description pursuant to the recommendation of the Personnel Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Do we have a second?
And Mr. Talbot.
Thank you.
Just
Ms. Nichols, back to you.
Yep, the council has seen this. Chief Jortner, you're here and you can explain it. I will just give you a quick overview. Unfortunately, we had a vacancy in the police department's technology coordinator position following the unexpected passing of Mike Winters in September. And so the police department felt that it was important to negotiate that position out of the dispatchers union in order to meet the technology of the police and fire department, and to create another position that would be a chief technology person just in charge of maintaining and keeping the technology up and running in the police and fire department. There's a lot of coordination that needs to be done. So either Chief Kasner or Assistant Chief Jortner, if you have further elucidation that you'd like to add, we'd be happy to hear that for the public.
Certainly, just from our vantage point, I think the town is in a unique opportunity here to really get some value added in a fiscally conservative way. Unfortunately, the circumstances of Mike Winters' passing has created this opportunity. But within that, we're able to combine the needs of the fire department and the police department under one position. And we could do so in a non-union environment where the needs are all going to be met, but not by overtime. So we have, the technology has advanced greatly over almost the last 20 years that I've been here. And Mike Winters did a very admirable job for us. But with all the unfunded mandates, all the technological upgrades, all the next gen and the CAD and the combination meshing of services between police and fire, this is absolutely the perfect time to create a position like this. Chief Kasner, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, as much as Mike Winters tried to help us out, he was just stretched so thin that there was never anything really formalized that he had to even do anything for us. And he did what he could, but this legitimizes the position of an actual public safety technology person. And this is not a unique situation. There are larger fire departments, like, larger cities have 2 or 3 IT staff dedicated to it, because the radios are all electronic and they're network based. And, the MDTs and the fire apparatus are just like the MDTs in the cars. And now we have to try to fight our way through service with the vendor, with Next Gen, or with some of the other vendors. And it just takes a long time, and stuff stays out of service for an extended period, or we bog down Apex with it because Apex is not really that well suited to deal with these specialized pieces of equipment. It's kind of unique, so they have to go through a lot of the same steps with technicians. So I'm really happy and hopeful that this goes forward, because this will actually give us someone to turn to when we have an IT need, which we haven't had to this point and probably have needed it for quite some time. So I'm 100% in support of having this person on board ASAP if possible.
I'd like to add to that too, to both of you. There is little or no financial impact to this change, because we are creating a position that's going to reduce the overtime and give us savings there and offsets the classification of the job. So we're getting far better service for those important safety mechanisms that we all depend on when we call, at little or no budget impact. So I will support it for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols, and thank you, Chiefs. Questions or comments from members of the council? Seeing none, just briefly, this was a successful negotiation, I believe, to remove this position from the dispatcher's contract. I think we did it on March 30th, 2021. This vote really codifies the new non-union job description and its pay scale. And as Ms. Nichols says, it's exempt from overtime. So the financial impacts are minimal, but hopefully will provide better service for both of our public safety departments, and just continuing to enhance the services for our community. So I will certainly be supporting this as well. And with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Looks like motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to 9F, discussion and possible approval of changes to non-union rules and regulations. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you again. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 041321-7. Be it resolved that the town council approves amendments to the non-union personnel rules and regulations as presented, as attached, per the recommendation of the Personnel Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Thank you, Mr. Jenks. Back to you, Ms. Nichols.
Yep, I'm just going to give you a quick assessment, and Mr. Zullo is here. He can perhaps elucidate a little more. This is proposed changes that will align the premium shares for the high deductible health plan and the open access network to the same level on as union settlements, so they're all the same. It includes verbiage about wellness incentive. It deletes language for waivers of coverage that is no longer in effect. It's a sort of somewhat housekeeping. It increases life insurance to 2 times the employee salary for those eligible exempt employees. It doubles the coverage level for eligible non-exempt employees. It exchanges Lincoln's birthday holiday for Christmas Eve as a holiday. And it correctly identifies President's Day, which at one point when I went to school in the dark ages was called Washington's birthday. So we now call it President's Day. So those are the basic changes, nothing critical, but it evens out all of the personnel issues pretty much evenly across the union spectrum. Lou, did I miss anything?
You hit it all, Sylvia. You're getting good at this, I tell you.
Been to too many of those meetings, right?
The committee's been very busy, Ms. Nichols. I appreciate all your hard work on that. Thank you. With that, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't so much have a question, but I know you just thanked him, and Lou pointed out how good personnel is, but I know they've worked especially hard this year and the council, of course, has joined them all. But, I think they almost need a singling out of their attention to detail and their reportage to the council. I just think it's admirable, perhaps should be expected, but nonetheless, I know it's somewhat thankless. And so I thought as a group, I'd lead the thanks, or at least let them know how appreciative I am of Sylvia, Peter, and who else is on the committee? Excuse me, Don Walsh, because I know in the midst of everything else, you guys are slaving away with other committees, especially hard as well. So I just thought,
as I'm usually referred to, good old, what's his name?
Yeah, right. Well, Don, he's at every meeting anyway.
I think
Don and Sylvia have been very busy, and certainly Jim as well, particularly with all their work on SMC. So certainly your remarks are very appropriate. Thank you. Any other questions?
We appreciate that, Rob, but you know what? We loved every minute of it, didn't we?
Just such a joy to be with all of you.
Takes a lot of gray matter.
Yeah, a lot of gray hair.
No other questions or comments? We're moving right along. Seeing none, with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I can tell we're all getting, a little bit tired with this whole Zoom thing. I mean, I'm having trouble now even kind of watching the hands that go up and determining whether we've got a unanimous vote or not. So, while I got a quick minute, just so the council understand, or the community understands, we are trying to work towards sprinkling in some public meetings. Hopefully, we'll have our next council meeting public. Obviously, there's some logistics to work out, making sure we're doing it appropriate. We're in concert with requirements of the state and certainly Chespercott, and making sure that the council members, et cetera, are comfortable. But just so the public understands, we are working towards a plan to begin to do some of this stuff live and in person, which, at least for me, hopefully I'll be more effective than I am lately. I feel like, maybe it's not from the fact that I had COVID many months ago, but God, it's hard to keep focused sometimes on these meetings. So, I do apologize to the public if they feel as though they're not getting the same level of service through this process as they normally do. And with that, I'm going to move on to 9G. Again, Ms. Nichols, discussion and possible approval of town manager's 2021 goals and objectives.
Did we vote for that last one? See, that's how confusing it is. Did we vote for that?
We did. Well, I did. We did vote, I think. And then I went on my long diatribe. So my apologies, Ms. Nichols.
All right.
Yes, you did work on that, Mr. Chairman.
But thank you for making my point. I appreciate it.
Exactly right. All right, next one. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 041321-8. Be it resolved that the town council approves the town manager's 2021 goals and objectives as presented and attached per the recommendation of the Personnel Committee.
Second.
Ms. Nichols, do I have a second? Mr. Talbot? Ms. Nichols?
All right, these are the goals that we work with as a Personnel Committee and approved by the council for Sean to have as a sort of template to keep focused on the important jobs. There is an attachment here, which is probably available in your public information, but basically the objectives cover the objectives around the pandemic and what we need to have done and how we need to support the vaccine and the leadership and so forth. Oh, Sean, good. You have that. Do you wish to? I was just going to turn it over to you. Would you want to go through them and talk about them? I think we can summarize them and say there's the COVID pandemic objectives, the finance ones, and that and here you could sing your own praises, but we had a successful bond sale in the end of March. We have a AAA bond rating. Those are things that we expect as one of his goals or objectives. We're now developing the responsible capital and operating budgets. And we're trying to find solutions to reduce the spending. So there are some goals and objectives in that department. Also in the economic development area, we have objectives to work on the north end utilities expansion and the parcel of the DOT conveyance property. We are going to hopefully hire a coordinator for economic development grant writing. We want to increase the visibility of our tax increment financing district. That's the TIF district, and the marketing of our commercial properties. We would like to implement additional recommendations from the Arnett Muldrow Market Assessment and Marketing Plan for the town of Cheshire. So those are all things that Sean has to do. You need to get these done by Friday. And then there are major capital projects that we'll be working on. So we work as a council together with Sean to prioritize those things that we feel are important for us to follow. It's sort of a fluid document, as things like pandemics take priority sometimes. But we will be developing a little bit more ambitious way to develop those goals and objectives in the fall with a council workshop with the town manager to see if we can be more efficient about those. But Sean, do you have any concerns or questions? Have we?
No concerns. I certainly appreciate all the effort we've put into discussing these. And as you said, Sylvia, I think we're trying to formalize maybe the process and the schedule for having this approved each year, but it's a really important document that we use, obviously referencing a lot with the council in our discussions, but also in my discussions with town department heads and setting out their own goals for the year. A lot of what we agree to here informs what we're going to be prioritizing our time on. So I certainly appreciate all of the input and feedback and any questions on these. And I know we had some discussion with Personnel Committee, but would certainly welcome additional thoughts and look forward to having these approved for this calendar year. And then we continue working forward on how we develop them each year. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. And Ms. Nichols, questions, comments from members of the council? Seeing none, but before we do vote, I do have a couple of things I'd like to say, because I think it's important. And we talk about you have till Friday to accomplish some of this stuff. But in all seriousness, I think, Sean, we're working towards accomplishing a lot of these items. And, Cheshire's been named the 28th best place to live in the U.S. by Money Magazine. Mr. Walsh just sent me a blurb today that we were named the 4th best place to live in Connecticut by Pure Wow, the 4th best town. The only 3 above us listed by that entity was West Hartford at number 1, Ridgefield number 2, and number 3, Greenwich. So it's not that that's a driving issue, but it's important, I think, for all of us to see that we're being recognized by those outsiders who have an independent review of our community. And they look at what we're doing very positively. Ms. Nichols talked about, our financial strength, and it is stellar. I believe we have one of the best finance departments in the state, if not well beyond that, led by Jim Jascott and Gina DeFilio. They work extremely hard to ensure that we maintain our AAA bond rating. And just to put this into context, as Ms. Nichols talked about relative to our recent bond sales, our new bonds were sold at 1.57%. Our refinance bonds were sold at 0.93%. Those are incredibly competitive rates that just underscore how strong people see our bond rating and our creditworthiness. So kudos to Jim and Gina and their staff, Sean and Arnett, for what you do. And certainly kudos to this council, because it's a collaborative effort of all of us driving this ship on behalf of the people of this community. So I think we're making some good progress. We have more places to go. These goals and objectives identify that, but boy, I'm pretty proud of some of the things we've accomplished in a very difficult time, and I'm confident that we're going to continue to do more, particularly led by the staff that we have. So thank you for that. And are there any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for indulging me for a moment. We're going to move on to 9H, discussion and possible action regarding a $12,236 appropriation from the Energy Rebate Performance Fund for an energy efficient control system. Ms. Pavano.
Yes, be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 041321-9 be it resolved that the town council appropriates $12,323 from the Energy Rebate Performance Fund for an energy efficient control system.
Second.
Thank you. I heard Mr. Jinks first. Back to you, Ms. Pavano.
Yes, this is for the community pool. And this was necessary. This request is necessary to get both the boilers to communicate with each other and, more importantly, restore remote monitoring. Perhaps if John Golick is still with us, he might want to add on to that.
Sure. I think John is here. If he's, oh, there he is. Otherwise, I'll take it. John, do you want to take
How are
this
you?
real quick?
Sure. So, sure, Mr. Chairman, we experienced some issues with our boilers at the pool back in late October. It's taken us probably to the early March to figure out what was happening with the newer boiler, not communicating with the older boiler. We have two competing energy companies servicing the pool, SNE and NEEC, and the preferred company right now to move in the direction of helping us solve this issue was NEEC, because they specialize in automation and the mechanical end of it, where SNE is just a specialist in automation. So back in early March, we were able to work with NEEC to come up with a temporary resolution. The newer boiler is up and running. They're communicating with each other manually, but we need to, the funding that we're looking for will help us put in some new controllers so that they will talk to one another and we'll be able to monitor remotely and take care of any system failures or alerts instead of finding it the next day when staff comes in.
If I could just quickly add, the funding identified, and thank you to Jim Jascott for assisting as we looked for some funds to pay for this. We had a leftover balance of just under $14,000 from the Amoresco large $1.2 million energy efficiency project that actually resulted in the Lochinvar boiler that is there at the pool. So in discussions with Finance Director Jascott, this seemed like an appropriate place to use those remaining, almost all of that remaining $14,000 to make those systems work the best that they can.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball, Mr. Golick, and Ms. Pavano. Any questions or comments from members of the council on this matter? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We're going to move on to 9I, discussion and possible approval of town manager's contract. It calls for possible executive session. I do not believe we need executive session unless anyone feels otherwise. Not seeing anybody interested in that. With that, I'll move on to Ms. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is my distinct pleasure to present the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution 041321-10. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves an employment contract for the Town Manager, Sean M. Kimball, for the term July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2024, pursuant to the terms presented and attached. Be it further resolved that as of July 1, 2021, this contract shall supersede the current contract term July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2022.
Mr. Chair, I'm very happy to second.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. Back to you, Ms. Nichols.
All right. To summarize the attached document, we are proposing a 3-year contract to begin at those dates we just stated, July 1, 2021 through June 31, 2024, at an annual base salary of $171,775, plus a one-time compensation of $12,500 for the period from January 1, 2021 through June 31, 2021, when his current contract expires. This is a one-time sort of retro payment for the 6 months, the past 6 months. The current benefits will continue, and under the new contract, his base salary and benefits will be reviewed annually by the council for the remainder of the 3-year term, and all other things will stay the same until the beginning of this term. So the council will annually review the benefits and the salary. And the contract documents are attached for you as the council members to make sure it's right. I would say it's notable that Sean Kimball took over as the town manager in May of 2018. Under his leadership and guidance, and with the support of the town staff, he has successfully managed tornadoes, winter storms, lengthy power outages, health and safety emergencies, and so much more. And if that wasn't enough to get him settled in, we threw in a global pandemic. So despite all that, under his stewardship, we have grown our grand list, maintained our tax rate and our credit rating while supporting the services that we all expect. And we're embarking on school modernization, updating technology, including a new town website, and the town is growing. The light in his office burns nightly for long hours, and he keeps the council updated in a very timely manner, often with emails as late as 11 o'clock at night. It's been a pleasure to work with him as he implements new ideas and systems to make Cheshire even better every day. Sean is committed to the future of Cheshire. We're happy to have him in his family as an integral part of our community and look forward to many, many more years of his leadership. And I, without one moment of hesitation, will support this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols, for that very nice presentation. Excellent. Thank you for that. With that, I will open it up for questions or comments from members of the council. Mr. Talbot?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mrs. Nichols absolutely said it all. We couldn't be happier. It is my hope that this sends a clear message to Sean that we're happy with the job that he's doing, and we'd love for him to be around for a long, long time with this community. So thank you very much for your efforts. The term baptism under fire comes to mind, and you certainly have passed with flying colors. We're very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Orris. I just wanted to echo what Mr. Talbot and Mrs. Nichols said. But Sean chose Cheshire before Cheshire chose him. And, he's been a part of this community. He's part of this community. His family is here. You see him at every event or function that goes around in this town. I don't even know if he sees his family that much, to be honest with you. But, he's always there for us, whether we have a quick question or a long question, he's there to answer it. And I think, this is well-deserved, and I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Other questions or comments? Ms. Pavano?
Yes, Sean supports us 100% on the council as the newest member. I have many questions, and he always answers with a smile and in a timely manner. Cheshire's very lucky to have him, and we want him to stay. So thank you, Sean, for all your hard work. It's very appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Pavano. Other questions or comments from members of the council? Mr. Slocum?
Well, I never call myself a progressive, but one thing I always do is look forward when management is under consideration and renewal and things of that nature. And I feel so comfortable with Sean Kimball, with Arnett at his side assisting, and all the staff that supports him. And to me, that gives great confidence, because, we all come and go, this council will change, but you look for the mainsail. And I'm impressed with Sean. I think he's done a credible job. And I think because of that, I just want to work with the guy, and I want everyone else to be able to work with the guy. And I think we can. He's proven that. We've proven that we can work together. So that's the summary of my support. It's obvious. He's great.
Thank you, Mr. Slocum. I thought I saw Mr. Jinks and then Mr. Gulliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say simply that I wholeheartedly support the contract, and it is great having Sean here. I think that Sean is probably one of the best town managers in Connecticut, and I think this contract reflects that now. So congratulations, Sean, and thank you for choosing Cheshire.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Veliver.
Thank you. And I'm going to, of course, echo the sentiments that have already been said. I think, Sean, you've done a great job, and we're very happy with you and what you've been doing. You know, since coming on, as Sylvia had mentioned, you've faced many tasks and many issues and adversities, but you've handled them all very well, and you've grown from starting as the town manager to now really owning the town managership. And I think you've done a great job. And not only do you do a great job as a town manager, you're a great representative for the town of Cheshire. You are well respected within the town by everyone from community service groups, different organizations, people, everyone you meet. You do a great job in making sure that everyone is well heard and issues are well represented. But also, I think you're also well represented the town outside this in the various organizations that you're in. And so you're a great representative of the town, but also it's been a pleasure working with you from a council town manager perspective and trying to accomplish the things that we're working on. And it's some of the things that Sylvia mentioned as well. Some of the accomplishments that we've had as a council really have been possible because of the teamwork and your between you and the council, but also because of your leadership. So it's been a pleasure working with you, and I wholeheartedly welcome this contract and going forward. So thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Dave. And Mr. Bowery.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the most important things that town council, arguably the most important thing Cheshire Town Council does is hire a town manager. And to extend Mr. Kimball's contract is a great benefit to the town. He has proven to be a great leader. He's proven to have the planning, the organization, and the communication skills to work well up and down. He always makes sure that his staff is well represented and they understand the direction we're going, but he always makes sure that we as the policy body have the information we need at hand to make the decisions and know what our options are. I don't think we could ask for somebody that has a better fit with us, and just echoing what everybody has said, we're very lucky and a fortunate community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And I think that leaves me, and I will simply say that I enthusiastically support this contract. And I'd like to spend just a little bit of time to kind of put some context for the public's edification. And back in 2018, or even prior to that, we embarked after Michael Malone announced his retirement, who he was here for many, many years. We had embarked on, as Mr. Bowery says, probably the most important thing that we do as a council to find the right fit for this community. We took it very serious. We interviewed a lot of people. We inevitably came down to Sean as our selection. At that time, Sean had no town manager experience. He was a finance director, correct, Sean? And so we knew, or we thought at that time, that Sean stood out. He was the right person for us. But he was still an unknown commodity here in Cheshire. And so we hired Sean when we made the offer at what I perceived to be a very economical rate. And that's where he has sat essentially with normal raises for the 3 years that he's been here. To put that in context, we have seen a survey that was done for town manager salaries, which include about 15 communities that are similar to Cheshire. Maybe a bit larger in size in some cases and significantly smaller in others. Sean, up until this potential raise, which we're going to vote on, was essentially second from the lowest in salaries, but yet was in the top 6 relative to size of the communities. So I think that's very telling. From my perspective, Cheshire has had an absolute bargain for Sean over the, having Sean at that rate for the last 3 years. This is nothing more than right-sizing his pay. So some people will say, wow, it could be a large increase. Yeah, it is. We've had a bargain for 3 years. We weren't 100% sure when we hired you, Sean. We are absolutely sure at this moment that you are a gem. In addition to providing the professional experience and leadership that we need, you're a wonderful family man. You have extremely high integrity, all of the things that we want to embody as a community here in Cheshire. So for me, this is the easiest decision that I'm going to make throughout my term here as a council member. And I am absolutely proud to support this tonight, because there will be some people that say, wow, how did he get that big raise? Well, guess what, folks? We had him really economically for 3 years. He is well below where his peers are paid, and it is now time to right fit this salary for this community so that we can drive forward and continue to be the great community that we all know this is. And Sean Kimball, I hope, will stay here for a long time. And I believe this contract solidifies that for us for some time, and let Sean know how important he is to all of us in this community. So this is not a dollars and cents issue. This is much bigger than that for this community. Him staying here will drive so many more important issues than this incremental increase that we're going to be voting on for a minute, and I'm sure will pay huge dividends for this community going forward. So, Sean, I apologize for saying so much, but I think it's important this community understand the economic impacts of what we're doing and why we're doing it tonight. And again, I will enthusiastically support this tonight. I appreciate everything you've done. You have been thrown so many curveballs, as everyone has said, since you've been here. You've dealt with them professionally. You've dealt with them with high integrity. Your heart is in everything you do. And as Mr. Wall said, you chose Cheshire before we chose you. And that's also another big point. So thank you for everything you do. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the council on this contract? Seeing none, with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Absolutely unanimously approval. Thank you. Sean, congratulations.
Thank you all very much. And if I could, just for 2 seconds, I'll be very brief, but
Absolutely. Take all the time you need, Sean.
well, I just want to say, thank you, first of all, to the town council. I say all the time, this is a team sport, and I think we all make a great team. The department heads, we have phenomenal town staff and department heads here. We all make a great team. And I think collectively, we've gotten a lot of great things done over the last 3 years that I've been here. Certainly the last year has been probably the most challenging in many ways, but I'm immensely proud of the way this community is coming through. Some of the successes that we're hearing, in recent months, but there's more to come, I'm sure, in terms of acknowledgements and recognition of how well Cheshire is doing. And we have a lot of great things in store too. I'm very confident that we're going to get a lot of wonderful things done over the next few years and beyond. So I'm very grateful and committed to this community, and I'm just excited for what the next few years are to hold. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. So with that, did I call for a vote? So here we go, Sylvia. I'm back to you.
We are voting.
Not yet.
Marilyn, thank God you were here to keep us all honest.
I know. It's my pleasure, Rob.
Thank you, Miss Milton. Appreciate it. So with that, before we go on to the last item, we're going to move to executive session.
No, you're not. You're going to call for a vote on the town manager's contract, which you
Oh, you
haven't
said
done.
we just did.
We did that. It was unanimous.
It was unanimous.
Everybody talking, I missed it. Okay, we're set.
And Marilyn, everything I just said nice about you, I take back.
And it would be unanimous the second time if we voted.
Well, it just goes to show that we're really passionate about the stuff we're working on. So we're really focused on the item in front of us. And, I think we're all really happy to say what we wanted to say about Sean's contract for a number of years now. And I'm glad we all had that opportunity. So it's expected we would all lose our place. But it was a unanimous vote, just for the record. And with that, before we move on to the next item, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss labor negotiations, pending litigation, personnel matters, potentially to include our town manager, our assistant town manager, our town attorney. I know we have a couple of consultants that are another town attorney for one of our matters, and we also have one of our appraisal consultants. Is there anybody else that I missed, Sean?
I think you covered everyone there. Jim Jascott.
Jim Jascott.
Yep.
Jim, are you coming in? Jim
I'll do that
Jascott?
for the text.
Oh, and to include Jim Jascott. So with that, motion to go into executive session?
So moved.